keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. How the 49ers can have success versus the Arizona Cardinals. This is a big game. It's one of those games that if you win, you put yourself in a prime position for the playoffs. All you have to do is look at some of the odds and what happens if the 49ers win this game. If they win, over an 80% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, it drops into the 50s. That is the difference between a big win over a division rival, puts you at 4-1, or a loss to a division rival that drops you to 6-5 and makes things a little bit more difficult in this 4-game stretch that you're trying to come out 4-0 on and put yourself in a 10-4 record, which would be huge for this 49ers football team. Now, these two teams matched up in week 3, and it's a lot different this time than it was last time. Last time, Kyler Murray was the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. That has since changed. It's now Jacoby Brissett. Last time, the Cardinals had Zay Jones. They had Marvin Harrison Jr. They had James Conner. They had a lot of players on the offensive side of the ball that are going to be missing in this one. They're going to be going with DeMarcado at running back. Their number one wide receiver is going to be Michael Wilson. They're going to have Greg Dortch as their number 2. Extremely different. Now for the 49ers, it changed a lot. Week 3 is when the 49ers lost Nick Bosa in the first half of that game. Since then, they've lost Fred Warner. There has been injuries to Yetur Gross-Matos. So the 49ers have been hit on defense, especially, and the Cardinals have been hit on offense. So this is going to be one of those matchups where a young 49ers defense is going to be taking on a inexperienced and downright confusing Arizona Cardinals offense, because some of the wide receivers that are going to play in this game are guys coming from their practice squad, guys that you've never heard of. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing shakes out. And it's not like the 49ers have had great success against backup wide receivers. You look at the Houston Texans. They were missing their starting 2 wide receivers. No problem. You look at some of the other games the 49ers have had this season, and they've had guys who have been out, and they've still had success against the 49ers. Tampa Bay, another prime example of a team without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, without Bucky Irving, and they still had success on offense against the 49ers defense. So just because players are out doesn't mean things are going to go one way or the other. It means you've got to execute and you've got to get it done. And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode, is how exactly the 49ers go about attacking the Arizona Cardinals on defense, and then what they do when they're on offense against the Arizona Cardinals defense. What are they going to do to them? Are they going to be able to get a run game going? Are they going to get a pass game going? What do I see the 49ers being able to take advantage of in this game and have success? That's what we're going to talk about. It's going to be a great episode. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening to audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode brought to you by FanDuel, the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. So let's get right into this. And one of the key factors in the first game was the fact the 49ers had to get the passing game going, and Mac Jones had to throw it 41 times in that game. 49ers only put up 16 points, though he threw it 41 times. That was an extension of the pass or run game, according to Kyle Shanahan. So they weren't effective running the ball. Now, things are different for the 49ers offense. Number one, Brock Purdy's going to be back. That's going to change some things. We're going to talk about a lot about Brock. Ricky Pearsall's back, and that's going to be one of the key elements to the 49ers game plan as well. But Connor Kobe was starting his first game against the Arizona Cardinals. Now you've got a better rotation going with Spencer Burford and Ben Barch. It feels like you've got more consistency along the offensive line. Dominic Pooney was struggling mightily. I think he's gotten a little bit better. Is he Dominic Pooney from last year? No, I can't say that. I don't know if he's ever been completely healthy, but he does look better. And so that is a positive for the 49ers offensive line. And that's going to help the offensive line be able to create in the run game. Now, last week, Jake Brendel came back, and it wasn't like it was Jake Brendel's best performance. He definitely did not help the 49ers run game a whole lot. Neither did Colt McKivitz, which McKivitz has primarily been pretty good with the run game. So this is going to be one of those key elements that I think the 49ers are going to focus on. The last time they played, they struggled a little bit to get the ground game going. You looked at Christian McCaffrey's numbers. He had 17 carries for 52 yards, 3.1 average. You look at Brian Robinson, he had 2 carries for 22 yards, and really it's because he had a 19-yard run. There's been all the conversation about the 49ers not having an explosive run, no run over 20 yards. Brian Robinson came the closest, a 19-yard run against the Cardinals on a toss play. It was blocked so well. It was one of my favorite plays of the season so far just because of the execution of the offense and the way that Brian Robinson read it. But you're going to get an opportunity to run the ball against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, if you watch my stuff on Patreon, the breakdowns, I talk a lot about bubbles in a defense. You can find these areas, these holes that you can take advantage of. And with the Los Angeles Rams, it's always a bubble on the outside with the outside linebackers because they play so wide. The same thing can be said true for the Arizona Cardinals. They bring up guys on the edge like Josh Sweat and Jordan Birch. Those guys play on the outside, and they want to get pass rush with those guys on obvious pass downs. But what it does do is leave them susceptible when you're running the ball. Baron Browning, right? You get Baron Browning, you get Josh Sweat. Those guys are solid defensive players, but they are susceptible to being pushed, getting pushed out. You want to get their 5-tech defensive ends who are more inside on your tackles. You want to block them down or get them moving and create an open lane, and then get those edge defenders, which are their outside linebackers, get them kicked out and create a nice lane in the outside zone, the outside toss for Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson. I think that this is an opportunity for the 49ers. I think that Josh Sweat is the better of the two against the run, but I think Baron Browning's a guy that you can go after a little bit more slider frame, not as good at setting an edge in the run game. That means opportunity for the 49ers to go get him. And the reason that this is significant is because the 49ers want to take advantage of 3-4 defenses every single time they see this look. And it's had mixed results. I thought last week they barely missed on some whole shot plays against the Rams. I think they have an opportunity to get them in this game. I think when Browning's out there, you've got an opportunity. Now, when Zaven Collins is out there, it's a little bit more difficult to get the edge and get some movement. But another big difference between this game and the Arizona Cardinals game in week 3 is you've got George Kittle. With George Kittle back, the 49ers now have Luke Farrell as the second tight end in blocking situations, and it's not Farrell and Tanja. So there were a lot of times the 49ers were ineffective blocking on the edge, and it's because the second tight end just wasn't as good. Now it's advanced, and the 49ers are further along. Kyle Juszczyk and this 21 personnel, when he's out there, he's been doing a pretty good job blocking too. So this is where they attack. They're going to attack. They're going to run right at the tackles. Colt McKivitz and Trent Williams are going to run right at them because the Arizona Cardinals have Calais Campbell in the middle. And number 93, Calais Campbell was an absolute menace last time the 49ers played the Arizona Cardinals. Everyone can remember the Cardinals taking the lead late because Calais Campbell beat Dominic Pooney on the swim move and got to the end zone, and Pooney held him for what would be a safety and a 2-point lead for the Arizona Cardinals late in the fourth quarter. Now, the 49ers did march down. Eddie Pinheiro kicked a 38-yard field goal to win the game. But I think it illustrates that Calais Campbell's someone you have to account for. And that's why I think the 49ers want to get on the edge. They want to run these toss plays to the outside. They want to run the outside zone. They want to get moving against this Arizona Cardinals defensive line. And the best way to do that is to establish the running game. And I think that that's what they're going to try to do with McCaffrey. And I think they're going to have more success than they had in the week 3 matchup because of the re-addition of George Kittle. The fact that the left offensive guard spot is better now with Spencer Burford and with Ben Barch, and because I think Dominic Pooney is further along. But they do need Colt McKivitz to have a good game, and Jake Brendel has got to make less mistakes than he made last week. I'm not asking for a perfect sheet from Jake Brendel, just asking for him to make less mistakes than he made last week. You came back from injury, maybe you're a little rusty, dust yourself off and go get it done, 64, because 49ers need you when it comes to making plays and blocking. But I do think McCaffrey's hit his stride when it comes to running the football, and I think this is going to be one of the keys. So going after the Cardinals' front 7 in the run game is going to be huge, especially attacking those outside linebackers That's going to be where they want to go. They tried to do it last week with Byron Young. It had some pretty good success. It could have had more if the 49ers were able to make their second level blocks on Omar Spates and some of the linebackers. And that's what they're going to be asked to do in this one. And one of the things we're watching is what's going on with Mack Wilson Sr. Mack Wilson was an absolute problem for the 49ers in that week 3 matchup. He did a good job going against Christian McCaffrey. Even though McCaffrey still had a day catching the football, he still did a good job. So that's going to be one that we watch as the injury report comes out and we see exactly what's going on with him. Now, I bring up Christian McCaffrey. He had 10 catches for 88 yards in that game against the Arizona Cardinals, including a screen pass to the left side that pretty much clinched the game. It put him down there where it was a chip shot field goal for Eddie Pinheiro, and the 49ers got the win. But McCaffrey has just been so good all season long, and I thought that the Arizona Cardinals were actually sticking with him a little bit. Now, here's the next matchup that I like for the 49ers offense. It is Kittle and McCaffrey versus the linebackers and safeties. And I think that this one is going to be very pivotal in this football game because George Kittle wasn't there last time. Jake Tonjes had a couple of catches. He got open a little bit. But the effect that George Kittle has on an offense is huge. The fact that defenses have to pay so much attention to him, and it's pick your poison. Now, the one thing I could say about the Arizona Cardinals is they do have quick linebackers who can absolutely run, right? Akeem Davis-Gaither, he's good. If Mack Wilson's playing, he's always good. But then they got a really good safety group. Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson are very solid. So with that, you're going to get some fun matchups, George Kittle, Budda Baker. But George Kittle has gotten the best of that matchup through recent memory. The fact that they're going to have to pay so much attention to George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey is going to be one of the key elements to this game. Because what happens when you have to do that, and these guys kind of sit a little bit shorter, because right now all the defenses are getting deep drops. So they're dropping their linebackers further back than they normally would because the 49ers haven't been able to run the ball as effective as they want. So they don't have to jump up and stop the run. So now they're trying to take away those deep crossers, those intermediate routes that Kyle Shanahan loves to dial up and take advantage of. So what they've been doing is sagging back. Well, when you get Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle in a situation where one of them sits short and the other one goes a little bit deeper, the gravitational pull to them by those guys starts opening things up over the middle. Now, most teams have been willing to just say, all right, check it down all day, and Mac Jones has been a check down merchant. Will Brock Purdy be a check down merchant? I think that's something to watch in this game, but I think there's going to be a lot of openings for Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle with some of the matchups that they're going to get. The fact that McCaffrey had 10 catches last time without George Kittle on the field, and really no Juwan Jennings on the field, no Demarcus Robinson. This offense looked a lot different in that matchup versus the Arizona Cardinals compared to what it's going to look like in this one, where you've got a lot of the weapons coming back. So I'm really curious to see how Arizona plans on trying to handle this, because right now Kyle Shanahan is putting those guys in a two-man game sometimes, and you're picking your poison. Are we bracket coveraging George Kittle? Are we trying to take away Christian McCaffrey? And it's making it very difficult. And so I think this is one of those opportunities for the 49ers to take advantage of, because I think they have an advantage with Kittle versus the safeties and McCaffrey versus the linebackers. And so how do the Cardinals go about that? They would normally put a third safety on the field, but Taylor Demerson is dealing with an injury. Is it going to be him? Are they going to put Katon Crawford out there? Will they just go with an extra cornerback? Maybe Catrell Clark coming in there? I think that's what's going to be interesting to see how they play it, because they go extra corner, 49ers run the ball. They go safety, 49ers throw the ball. Because the Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle are a huge matchup problem. And so I love what Kyle Shanahan's doing. And I think that's also why we might start seeing the 49ers run game take off a little bit, with all these linebackers so willing to get such deep drops. Are they going to be as willing to step up and play that run? And 49ers maybe going to get some advantages, get those linebackers out there. As you get more and more weapons, you get Brock Purdy who's willing to go vertical. Well, there's some things. And there's a player coming back that I really want to talk about after I tell you guys about FanDuel. Right now, if you want to bet with FanDuel, the 49ers are favored by 3 points on the road in Arizona. The over-under is 47.5. I think that the 49ers are going to score some points in this game. I know last time it was 16-15, but I think more points are on the horizon for both teams. Lots of cool player props. You can bet on anytime touchdowns. You can bet on who's going to score the first touchdown. Lots of cool stuff over on FanDuel. Check it out. But I want to talk about Ricky Pearsall because Ricky Pearsall was a problem in the Week 3 matchup. He went 8 catches for 117 yards. He had a 34-yard catch down the sideline that Mac Jones absolutely dotted. And he really was just making all kinds of plays. He had 14.6 yards per reception. And I think this is where I look at this game and I say, okay, we got the run game. Let's get that going. That's going to open things up for McCaffrey and for Kittle. And then all of a sudden, if you're coming up and you have all that gravitational pull to Kittle and McCaffrey, who's watching Ricky Pearsall as he's running those deep crossers? Because you're not running man coverage for the most part. You're running zone coverage. So when those guys get put into that vertical stretch, what are their decisions going to be? Are they going to come up and get on Kittle and McCaffrey? Or are they going to let Brock Purdy just throw it underneath to those guys all game long and let them just rack up catches and rack up yak yards and stay ahead of the sticks? 7, 8 yards, those things add up. So if all of a sudden you start slowly coming up, and Ricky Pearsall starts hitting those deep crossers that made Deebo Samuel so popular with the way that he was able to catch it and what Ricky did against Arizona in the first matchup, it could be a problem for them. This is a matchup I really like for the 49ers. Now you have Juwan Jennings. He's going to help in this department. You have Kendrick Bourne. He was just in his first game with the 49ers last time in Week 3. You have Demarcus Robinson. You have all the weapons you need now on offense. Feel like you're going to get a little bit better protection with this offensive line the way it's currently built. And so now you've got some shots. And here's one of the things that I want to see in this game and why it's so pivotal for these exact looks. So the 49ers love to run these concepts where they get a deep through route where the guy's running a deep vertical, and then they get the guy running the deep crosser. And what they're trying to do is put the safety in a vertical stretch. And how much of the Cardinals going to run single high safety is going to be important as well. And why is that important? If they're running single high safety, it usually means they've got another safety either taking away that crosser with a little bit of a buzz concept, or he's in the box to take away the run. If you get that single high safety, if he sits flat, if his feet stay flat, the way that we saw last week when Demarcus Robinson could have had a touchdown down the field, but Mac Jones didn't uncork it. Flat-footed, all of a sudden that through route runs away from that corner who has to play outside leverage and get to the middle of the field. Those are whole shots. Here's why it's pivotal. If you're going to take away that deep crosser and you're going to come up and try to take away those underneath routes to McCaffrey and Kittle, you are going to leave yourself susceptible to those big plays. Against Mac Jones, that probably has worked. Mac hasn't been as willing to take some of the shots. He has taken some, but not as willing as Brock Purdy. If Brock Purdy sees that safety flat-footed in the middle of the field or sitting on one of those crossing routes, he's absolutely going to uncork one down the field to one of his receivers. So this is one of those opportunities I see for the 49ers to potentially have a couple whole shot plays if the Cardinals do that. What I think the Cardinals are going to do, I think they're going to sit back, take away the deep passes, and they're going to make the 49ers check it down underneath, make Brock Purdy prove that he can do it. But I think that this is going to open things up for Pearsall eventually. I think at some point, those linebackers and safeties are going to jump Kittle and McCaffrey, and they're going to try to take away those plays, and it's going to leave the intermediate part of the field over the middle open for Juwan Jennings and open for Ricky Pearsall. But Pearsall's route running, his ability to create separation, his releases, is why I believe that he's going to be a force in this game. And I know he's just returning from injury. He probably won't play as many snaps as he normally would, but I think on the opportunities that he gets, the targets that he gets, he's going to be a problem for the Arizona Cardinals. This is a huge weapon for the 49ers. And I like Kendrick Bourne. I like Demarcus Robinson, but they are not Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall is a little bit extra. He's got a little wiggle. He's got a little bit extra when it comes to the hands. I think that this is going to be huge for the 49ers. And now you're starting to put it all together again. When you talk about the offensive weapons and how you want to build this offense, right? The running game affects how the linebackers are able to drop. Your tight end and your running back affect how far they drop. And if they drop too far, those guys are weapons. Then you've got the intermediate part of your route with your Z receiver either whether it's Ricky Pearsall or Jawan Jennings running those deep crossers. Now you're putting pressure on them in all these different areas. And then you've got some of the speed. Demarcus Robinson's fast enough to get vertical down the field. You've got, Sky Moore, who's vertical. He can get vertical down the field. These guys can put pressure on. We've even seen Jawan Jennings do it. So you're putting them in a real predicament where they're having to cover the whole field vertically. And that's going to make it difficult for a team. So those are the matchups I really love for the 49ers offense is the run game against the Cardinals front seven. I think the 49ers go over 100 yards in this game. I think they're going to be able to do it. Kittle and McCaffrey versus the linebackers and safeties, I think advantage 49ers. And I think that plays into Ricky Pearsall versus the Cardinals cornerbacks and secondary as things open up in their zone coverage with Jonathan Gannon. Now, I want to flip it to the other side of the field and talk about the 49ers defense against the Arizona Cardinals because it's a different makeup when you go into this game. Last time you were going in and you had so many defensive pass rushers. You really loved the way the defense looked, especially on third down. You had Bosa, you had Huff, you had Eter Gross-Matos, you had Mikael Williams. Pretty much all those guys besides Bryce Huff, they're not in right now, right? Gross-Matos could come back at some point, but Mikael Williams, Nick Bosa, they're on the shelf. So that element of defensive pass rush is for the most part gone. But it doesn't have to be. Now, one thing that they said that John Lynch said on KNBR was the 49ers didn't earn the right to rush the passer. And you've probably heard me say that and echo that a lot of times. That's something that defensive coordinators say around the league. We have to earn the right. Everything the 49ers did during the offseason was to earn the right to rush the passer on third down. Drafting Mikael Williams, drafting Alfred Collins, hitting guys who could set the edge. And they didn't just do that. They also went out and got guys, right, that could rush the passer, like Bryce Huff, a guy that's a finisher on third down. So they put all the elements together. Now, unfortunately, injuries have derailed that. But you're going into this game where the Arizona Cardinals are going to be missing their top running backs from the last time that you played. You look at the numbers. Last time Trey Benson had 10 carries for 42 yards. Now, a lot of that was one 29-yard run where he got free along the right side. But they were able to get yards from Kyler Murray, which is a big part of this, and James Conner, who had 22 yards. They got 100 yards on the ground. This time they're going to have Emari Demercado as the number one back. And the number two back is going to be Michael Carter. So this is a situation where they're on running back like 4 and 5. You have to stop the run. One of the key factors in this game is stopping the run. And I think the 49ers can be a little bit more aggressive with an 8-man box. And normally what Robert Saleh likes to do is he likes to sit two eye safeties pretty much predominantly, a quarter shell, which means he likes to play his corners a little bit off, and he's showing a quarters defense shell pre-snap. And that's how he likes to go about business. Now, with Marvin Harrison out, with Zay Jones out, I wonder if he gets more aggressive with bringing Malik Mustafa or Jair Brown in the box. I think early in this game, he might not do that. I think he might make the Arizona Cardinals prove that Demercado can run the ball effectively against a 7-man box. Because if they can't, you're sitting in the catbird seat as the defense. You're feeling comfortable, and you can get forced third and longs, right? Earn the right. So this is going to be one of those key elements. Now, I think if they start getting a run game going at all, I think he does get hyper-aggressive and put the onus on his corners to stick with those guys on the outside and say, hey, look, these aren't the number 1 and 2 wide receivers. You got to go out there and you got to get it done. Renardo Green, Deommodore Lenoir, Upton Stout, earn your money. But I think that this is going to be one of those keys to stopping the run game for the Arizona Cardinals. And I think you have an opportunity here to do so. So I expect this to be an onus for the 49ers defense. I think Alfred Collins being back would be huge. Getting him as part of the rotation would be huge. We'll see what happens with that. As time of recording, I don't have an update on Alfred Collins. But the 49ers defensive line has to do a better job against the run game than they did last week against the Rams. And they did a pretty good job against the Cardinals last time, if it wasn't for Kyler Murray's legs. Now, Kyler Murray's not playing in this game. That's going to be a huge element. But another element has got to be Trey McBride. Now, Trey McBride didn't exactly go off the last time he played against the 49ers, but he was successful. He had 5 catches for 43 yards. He had the touchdown in the back of the end zone against D. Winters. And actually, D. Winters had pretty good coverage. Kyler Murray got loose, got outside the pocket, and dropped a nice ball right over the top of D Winters. It was actually decent coverage, especially in the NFL, for linebacker on tight end. But Trey McBride is going to be their number one weapon in this game. If you look at what they did in the last game, the catches, just in general, Marvin Harrison, he had 3 catches for 44 yards. He's not playing. Zay Jones had 2 for 25. He's not playing. James Conner had 3 for 15. He's not playing. Trey Benson had 3 for 9. He's not playing. Tip Ryman, 2 for 8. He's not playing. The other guy I'm kind of worried about is Elijah Higgins, and he had just 1 catch for 7 yards. Michael Wilson, 1 for 5. Greg Dortch, 2 for 3. Those are your starting wide receivers, Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch, and they had 3 catches for 8 yards combined against the 49ers last time. Now, do I expect that number to go up? Absolutely, I do, because they're going to be more predominantly featured. But that's why there's a lot hanging on Trey McBride. Trey McBride and Elijah Higgins, I think, are going to be asked to do a lot in this game. And Higgins is a good pass catcher. The reason being, we just watched the Los Angeles Rams go 13 personnel and give the 49ers some problems in the running game. I don't know if I expect the Cardinals to go 13 personnel. They have the personnel to do it because they can put Tip Ryman in there as well. But I do expect to see some 12 personnel. Them to try to get the 49ers in a base set, the 49ers 4-3, and then take advantage of guys like Luke Gifford out in zone coverage. So I think it definitely makes sense for the Cardinals to go a little bit big this week, and that means more opportunities for Trey McBride. Now, for the 49ers, if I'm them, I'm taking away Trey McBride. I want to stop the run. I want to take away Trey McBride. And I want to make everybody else beat us, right? You want to make Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Tip Ryman, Elijah Higgins, make those guys be the guys that get it done. So this is going to be one of the keys. I think the 49ers can keep him down, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. One of the reasons you were so good against Trey McBride last time you had Fred Warner. You don't have Fred Warner this time. You can't go to those looks, right? You just don't have linebackers that are as good in zone coverage as you had with Fred Warner. But that's going to be one of the keys in this game. Slowing down Trey McBride is going to be huge. And then you've got to get pressure on Jacoby Brissett. And one of the problems for the 49ers that they didn't have in the Week 3 matchup was now they can't get home with 4. If you look at what they did in that Week 3 matchup, they were getting home with just 4-man pass rush. Bryce Huff, Nick Bosa, right? Those guys were bringing pressure. Sam Okuwanu, Mikael Williams, like they had it all rolling. That's not the case anymore. It does happen, but it's a little bit more fewer and far between than you got before. The problem is Jacoby Brissett is a stationary target. Last time when you played against Kyler Murray, you had to worry about staying in your pass rush lanes and not allowing Murray to escape, which he did. He extended, I don't know how many drives on 3rd down run plays to get first downs. He was just really good. That element is gone. So the 49ers need to make sure they get after Jacoby Brissett. So I do expect Robert Saleh to bring blitzes. Now, can he bring 5-man pressures and get home? I think that's the best situation for the 49ers. But they absolutely must put pressure on Jacoby Brissett. He's been getting sacked like crazy. Last week, Seattle got after him, had a strip sack. They were getting after him a lot in the pocket. And so this is one of those opportunities where you can't let Jacoby Brissett sit there and dissect you. He's a veteran who understands zone coverage, and he will find open receivers. You have to get to him. He's not as nimble, not as athletic as he used to be. He can still scramble, but he's not going to kill you with his legs. So be aggressive, go after him. Now, with that being said, I do think the 49ers are going to be able to get some pressure on Jacoby Brissett. I think when you look at the 49ers defensive pass rush, they're going to be able to go after this Cardinals offensive line a little bit. And it's not that the Cardinals offensive line is bad, but Jonah Williams has been banged up a little bit. And, Paris Johnson is at times ineffective. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Now, I do think Paris Johnson's good. Don't get me wrong. But I think there's opportunities to go there. So what's going to happen with Jonah Williams and Kelvin Beachum? Is he going to be playing? Is going to be one of the key elements. With Robert Saleh bringing the blitz, the other thing the 49ers have to be concerned about is screens. I think they tried to go to Greg Dortch last time. It didn't work. But the 49ers didn't have to blitz as much. They had the extra defender out there to be able to stay with him. They also like to run screens to Trey McBride. And I think Trey McBride, Elijah Higgins on screens, especially with the 49ers trying to dial up so much pressure, could be dangerous. This is going to be one of those keys. How does Robert Saleh be able to dial up blitzes without leaving himself susceptible to those screens? Because Jacoby Brissett is a guy that can make pre-snap reads and put them in the right situation. So this is going to be one of those cat and mouse games for the Cardinals and the 49ers and how Robert Saleh attacks. I think this is going to be one of the keys. I think if they can get pressure on Jacoby Brissett with 5, not 4, I think it'll be difficult with 4. I think at times you just rush 4, but especially on third down, bring a 5th guy. I think if it's just 5, you can be effective in slowing down the screens. I think if it has to go to 6, that's when you leave yourself susceptible. And I worry about Trey McBride in the open field, and I really worry about Greg Dortch in the open field. And that's when Arizona could find a little bit of an advantage. So on defense, it's slow down Trey McBride. It's stop the Cardinals run game. And not slow it down, stop it. And I think that you have a shot to do so if you play it right. Like I said, even being aggressive, get an 8th guy in the box and put the onus on Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals offense to throw the football consistently. Get pressure on Jacoby Brissett with 5 and play those screen passes, and don't allow yourself to get stretched horizontally on the defensive side of the ball. So this is how I think the 49ers can have success versus the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday in a big pivotal divisional game. I appreciate you all coming through and watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.